You're alive.
I'm alive. Okay, so really, Pei and Pei Aleph go together. I think we'll start. We're going to do Pei. We'll do a little Pei Aleph. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But definitely they have to be done together, which means the Vada are going to take more than a week. About 2 weeks, I would say. It's not long, but some different inyanim that we have to speak about. Okay, so let's do Sicha Pei first. Yeah, number 80. Matria Yisod. 60, 70, 80. Yeah, Yisod. It's a big Yisod.
Okay.
B'nei Adam. יש להם כוח למנוע להסס את האדם לרחקו מעבודת הבורא ומצדיקי אמס יוסר מן היצר hara. Rabbi Nachman says that people have the power to prevent a person from avodas Hashem more than the Yetzer Hara. Okay? We'll be medayik. It's not medayik, it's just reading the words carefully. He says, B'nei Adam yesh lem koach limnoa ulahasas. Translate limnoa. Menias means to prevent. Lahasis means, if you hear of the mesis, there's an isser to entice somebody to do an avera, specifically avodah zarah, but to entice them to do an avodah, to do an avera. So, bnei adam, people have the power to limnoa, to stop a guy from avodas Hashem, meaning from doing a mitzvah, and they have the power lahasis for a person to influence another person to do an avera more than the Yetzer Hara, and to distance themselves from tzaddik emes. People can influence you to stay away from a tzaddik more than the Yetzer Hara can. That already should be something to think about. Ki Yetzer Hara, what's the pshat? How is that possible? Ki Yetzer Hara ein lo yecholes rak kefi kocho, kefi bechinas ha-Yetzer Hara, me'eza ha'olam shehu. Because the Yetzer Hara does not have the ability, except, double negative, it only has the ability according to its power, its koach, and it's limited according to its bechina. So there is a limitation to what the Yetzer Hara could do. The Yetzer Hara doesn't come right now and say, eat a cheeseburger. The Yetzer Hara can't come at you with 10 things at once. It goes one by one. It has a certain koach that it's given the ability to do. Right? Get angry now. Doesn't tell you to, not put on tefillin today. It can say that also, but one thing at a time. Again, it only has power. If you kochok, if you bechinas haYetzer Hara me'eza olam shehu, whichever olam it's from. I'll explain in a minute. Aval adam hu klolius. Man is, I don't know what the good English word is. Klolius, he's all-encompassing. Shekol mikol halamas. Included within him is all the worlds. He quotes the Sefer Shari Kedusha. You know what the Sefer Shari Kedusha is? Chaim Vital, Talmud of the Arizal, or a Sefer called Shari Kedusha, which is an amazing Sefer, which I don't think people learn very much. And it talks about some basic things, but also goes into certain depth about the worlds, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, that uncovers the depth and the pnimis of man. And nothing crazy. It's a sefer that I think should be learned more. Maybe one day we'll learn it. I'm not a baki, I've only seen it once, but it's a very powerful sefer. It's a Talmud of the Rizal. So he says over there that man is comprised of all the olamos. V'al kain menias shel b'nei adam hem yoser min menias haYetzer Hara. Therefore, the influence that man has to prevent another man from doing a mitzvah or to do an avera, let's say, is even more than the Yetzer Hara. Now I'll tell you, in halacha, this comes out, in halacha, there's a Mishnah, famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Ratz chatzvi, yizgaber kari, right? Run fast like a deer. Yizgaber kari, be strong like a lion. Well, there's two more. Pop quiz over Pirkei Avos. Now we're in Pirkei Avos land now, Kal Kanesher, be light as an eagle, and one more. What?
Number?
Yeah. Oz Kanamra, be bold like a leopard. Okay? So if I would ask you, those four, if we'd have to, which is the most important? Of those four, just what would you think? Now,
Depends if you're running from Cossacks.
Rotz Tzvi is to do mitzvahs, bizrizas, classic. They mean more things, but he's gaber kari, be strong, be courageous, get up in the morning, fight against the Yetzer Hara. Oz Kanamar, be bold like a leopard, and Kal Kanesher, I think it's brought down that you should be quick if there's something not so good in your eyesight. Quick, close your eyes quick, like the eagles. Very quick, swift.
Swift like you.
So which would you say is the most important?
Lion.
So I would think most people would say the lion, especially because it starts off the Shulchan Aruch. He's gaber kari baboker.
Yeah, but if you're a lion, but you're not bold.
So
it's
so very good. If you look at the tour, I should get it. Should I get it? You want to see it inside? I'll show it to you inside. I forgot to get it. The tour. The tour? The tour is the son of the Rush.
Also, Tehillim, the first Tehillim talks about be wary of the lazy people. It talks about people, not the Yetzer Hara. First Tehillim 1, right?
First tour. The Shulchan Aruch really built itself off the tour. The Arba Turim, again, son of the Rush, he wrote 4 books. Arba Turim. The first book is Or Chaim. The second book is Even Ezer, Yeredein, Choshen Mishpat. These are the books of the Shulchan Aruch, but the tour really was one who codified it that way. The Rambam had his own way, which we all learned, but it never got established itself as much as the Shulchan Aruch did. And again, the Shulchan Aruch takes from the tour. So it's fascinating. The Shulchan Aruch starts off, Yizgaber Kari Baboker. Get up strong like a lion, fight against sleep, get up, Modani, get up, daven. The tour starts off with the Mishnah, the Halacha Sefer. This is the Halacha Sefer. Yehuda ben Tema Omer, he quotes the Mishnah Pergelis. Hevi oz kanamer v'kal kanesher ratz katzvi gibor kari la'asos rotzon avicha shebeshamayim. Act like these animals to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to do as well. Parat arba devarim b'avodas haboros baruch. So here is 4 ways to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The hischil, and the first one, I actually have to look in the Mishnah Pergelis what the order is. The hischil, the Mishnah starts off ba'oz kanamer. The first one is be bold like a leopard. Lafi shehu klal gadol b'avodas haboros baruch. The oz kanamer is the biggest klal in all of avodas Hashem. Lafi, he says, what's pshat? What does it mean? First tour. Lafi shepa'amim adam chafetz lasos mitzvah. Because sometimes you have a person who wants to do a mitzvah, v'nimna milasosa, and he's prevented from doing it, mipnei b'nei adam shemal igim olav. Because people make fun of him, they mock him, they joke around. Even if it's just just joking comment. Do you know how many people don't learn Torah or certain parts of Torah? Some people don't go to certain places or do certain mitzvahs because of little tiny comments of what people have said to them. Could be things in your own life.
The atzlans.
The
Atzlans, isn't that the word? The ones like this. Yeah.
Atzlan is lazy one.
Right.
Well, it could be coming from a person who's an atzel, or he's depressed, or he's angry, and he makes a comment and it prevents you.
No, son.
Litzanas. I'm
Like,
thinking the word in Tehillim.
Litzanas, yeah. So Litzanas, we're gonna 100%.
That was
The Maligim, the Litzanim, which we're going to, the Kas Leitzim, which we're going to get to, I don't know if we'll get to today, but we're not going to discuss with those people. But in the first halacha, you have to be bold like a leopard, because there are going to be people who are going to try to stop you by just mocking you, not like physically stopping you. They're going to mock you. Sticks and stones and break my bones, and words will never hurt me. We have to live that way, because words do hurt people. Right. And it does stop people. They shouldn't. And there's a way to work around that. But he said a person wants to do a mitzvah, and he's prevented from doing the mitzvah, b'nei adam shemal igim alav, because they make fun of him. The alkain, and therefore, the first act of avodas Hashem that Rabbi Yehuda ben Teva is teaching in the Mishnah is to guard yourself, to be strong, sheta'is panecha, to be brazen-faced, keneged hamaligim, against these mockers. The altim the milasas mitzvah, and don't not do the mitzvah. And he says, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, it's a famous Gemara in Brachos, he says to the Talmidov, this when he was dying, he rotzen. This is like his final, last one testament to his Talmidim. He rotzen she'emora shemayim aleichem k'mora basodam. May it be that you fear Hashem. This is his Talmidim. May you fear Hashem like you fear people. You feel man. Because the natural way is that we fear man more than we fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If a person knows, there's many sins that a person would do, lo aleinu, if he's in his room by himself. But if one person would be there, he wouldn't do it. Right? Because a person's more embarrassed by people than they are of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore it's the other way also. A person could be influenced by other human beings much more than tzaddikim. This is the beginning of, he goes on a little bit about busha, about being embarrassed. He says, that's again, all his kanamar, be bold in their face. And then he talks about David HaMelech, who Dafka and David HaMelech, he says here, would have meetings with the kings of the world. But he wouldn't be embarrassed. He would still learn and daven and do his mitzvahs, and he would say his shitas, his religious shitas, even though the kings don't care about that stuff, but he wouldn't be pushed off. So that's where it starts off. And Rabbi Nachman is saying that, again, Pashup Shah.
I don't get the difference between the courage and of the lion and the bold. Being bold like a leopard versus the lion that's courageous.
Well, you could say, Yizgabakari, classic Yizgabakari, first in Shulchan Aruch is what? Fight against your Yetzer Hara that wants you not to get up in the morning. Right. So it could be Yizgabakari is fighting against the Yetzer Hara, Oz is fighting against people who are trying to stop you, and Oz is first.
Right, then it makes sense.
So you see that you have to be dafka fighting against the mockery and that of people more than the Yitzhar because it's more powerful. Now Rabbi Nachman goes into depth here. Why is that? How is that possible? And we're going to go into it more. So he says here, the Yetzer Hara is limited. He's only able to affect a person kafi kocho, kafi bechinas Yetzer Hara me'ez ha'olam. But man is close.
Check what the difference is between courageous and bold.
Okay.
So
well, by the way, courageous is not the word yizgaber.
So what is this?
Courageous is imutzer, chazak ve'amatz.
So what's?
But you could say maybe a lion is courageous. But what do you want to say?
It's bravery.
Courageous is facing fear, danger, despite being afraid.
That's what. That's
bold. Is
bravery.
Courageous.
Courageous.
Bold
say it slow.
Bold is confidence and willingness without hesitation or fear.
So that's good.
It can suggest impulsiveness or audacity. So
right.
In short,
chutzpah.
Courageous is brave in the face of fear, and bold is daring and confident.
Yeah.
What is Yiskaber?
Gvura. It means strength. But you can say courageous. Say courageous. The key word there, I don't know if we'll get to right now, is the word, I'll just say confidence. Because one thing I was thinking about is that, we'll have to talk about it more next week, but if a person would be honest and he would understand, he would really know his thoughts and the way he works, is that he builds his confidence from other people. Very often a person, they're not fully self-confident. Well, if you're not self-confident, then where are you getting it from? Well, because you have money, you have looks, you're cool, people like you. And we build ourselves because there's other people around us. Therefore, we're under the influence, under the power of other people. And the sick thing is, and I said this many times, maybe in this Chabura, we think what other people think about us. I will do something or not do something because of the way that I think that you think about me. I mean, I don't even know. But I think that you think this about me or will think this about me, and therefore I will act in that way. It's insanity. But most people aren't even aware of that. That's one of the avodas of this Torah, of the Sicha really, is to start thinking about that. Where am I really being influenced by other people? And you'll see it's much more than the Yetzer Hara. We call the other people influencing us Yetzer Hara.
Right.
It's other people. It's coming from the outside. Yeah, what was I saying?
He gives it better. Yiskaber Kari is strengthened like a lion.
Yeah.
And the focus is overcoming laziness or internal resistance.
Yetzer Hara. More
inner bravery. And Az Kanamer, facing external pressure or mockery, outward boldness.
Perfect. Because this is the same distinction that we're making, that the internal is more the Yetzer Hara coming from within, and the external, which you need boldness for, is coming from other people. Exactly. And one would think that the Yetzer Hara, the scary Yetzer Hara, is more powerful. It's not true. It's much more pressure coming from the outside. Now you can call those people what they're trying to do to you Yetzer Haras, but it's really coming from these people. So by man of al Adam hu klolius, he's built from all the olamos, and therefore he's coming with much more power. What does this mean? In a little bit of a simple but deep way. So if you a little bit of Pneumius, very basic. When Kadosh Baruch Hu created man, let's start with the Medrash, or the Pashup Shot, Adam was created from the dust of the earth. So it says. He's created after all of creation. That's what happened. The Medrash says, Naaseh Adam, we shall make man. One of the understandings is that Kadosh Baruch Hu said to all of creation, every animal, every type of material, everything in the world is going to be included in it. So that's why when we get angry, we're like angry like a lion. Or stop eating like a pig. Or stop, running around like a horse. Because sometimes we're animals. We grow like flowers, right? Got to water us. We have all of the aspects of the world. That's the Medrash. In a deeper way, but it's expelling out or going a little bit deeper into the Medrash, is that you've heard of 10 spheres, right? Mm-hmm. Man is comprised of the 10 spheres. Keser, Chachma, Bina, parentheses Das, Chesed, Gvur, Tveres, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, Malchus. Man is comprised, within him is all olamos. There's 4 or 5 worlds. There's something called Ak, which is called Adam Kadmon, primordial man. It's called man. Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. Good. And what Sefer?
Soul of a tzaddik.
One way to break that down. What?
That's the soul of a tzaddik comes from Bria.
From Bria.
When you bow, we're jumping into that one.
We all come from Bria.
Or when you bow into Shemesser, then you can hit Atzilus. That's what we did this.
I was there today.
So you have to expound upon this. And that means we have that all in us. An animal doesn't have that.
Right.
We have 4 primal elements. This is getting a little bit closer to reality. Eish, Mayim, Ruach, Afer. Fire. Eish, Mayim, water. Ruach, wind. Afer is dirt. We're made up of all of these things. And our midos come from these places. So we're made up of, and then you can even say even more. There's many different ways to say this, and they're all different. They all have to be learned. Even our soul is really 5 pieces. It's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. We have everything is mamash inside of us. All worlds. Man can think. We'll go even higher. Man can meditate. Very, very high. That's even higher than thinking. Man can think very deeply. Man can feel. Man can speak, can express, right? So we have everything in the world is within us. We have to just learn how to use it. To learn about that, so you have to learn Pneumius Torah. You learn Sefer Sfarim like Tanya, and you're like, whoa, what's going on over here? We have this stuff inside of us, and that gets you start to think, and you start to expand, and then those parts of you come to life, and you start to be a changed individual. That's what Baal Shem Tov wanted. That's where the Torah starts to elevate a person. So when man comes at you to influence you, even though he's just maybe saying words, where's it coming from? It's coming from worlds upon worlds upon worlds, which is in this person. Again, the more you learn about this, the more it'll mean. But even just from just the words I'm saying, it's already like a lot going on over here. And when a person says something, it's coming from a dibur, with a kavana, with a deep motivation. These are all different worlds. It's coming with a feeling. So included in this one thing, hey buddy, we don't need mincha today. Let's go to the ball game. You catch mincha tomorrow. Whatever it is. That's coming with a lot of back, even though it's just like it's a short comment, coming with a lot. And you build your confidence because that's your friend. Right? He's the key to your confidence. So he's coming out with you a lot. Yetzer Hara doesn't come at us with all of the worlds. He either comes into our mind, he comes into our feelings, he comes into our trying to get us to do an action. And then if you do the action, he comes at you again and tries to make you feel bad that you did the action. But everything's one at a time. Kefi kocho, kefi bechinas, bechinaso, kefi ha'olam, me'iza ha'olam shehu. So sometimes the Yetzer Hara of the mind, sometimes the Yetzer Hara of the heart, sometimes the Yetzer Hara of the hands, like to do something. It could be Yetzer Hara coming from attacking your chesed, or your gevura, or your teferis. Sometimes it's a combination. but it's more narrow. And therefore, of course, the Yetzer Hara, we fight against him, and he does influence us to do bad. But it's nothing like when a person comes at us. There's so much more packed into that one little comment that the guy says, or he makes fun of you. Oh, you do that? You know, I didn't come up with any ideas, but like, oh yeah, you have simple things. A guy puts on a hat, or he puts on a suit jacket, puts on a bekasha for Shabbos. He feels that will enhance his kedusha Shabbos, his onik Shabbos, his whatever kavod Shabbos, which for the right person it does. And you come into shul one time, and one guy says to you, "You're one of those guys," or it doesn't look good on you, or what? You'll never see that hat ever again. For a person who's not confident, you will never see that hat ever again. Ever again. There are people who are living with like PTSD. In certain mitzvahs, they can't bring themselves to it because of one comment. A guy opens up, I'm not even joking, a guy can open up, he's in a yeshiva, real yeshiva place, and he opens up, I don't know, a Sichos Haran. Good sefer, yeah? One of the classics of all time. And you could have a guy walk by him, and he'll just say like haphazardly, you learned that? That's not, we learn this over here. That's what you learn. What are you, like a baby? Are you a girl? Compared to what we're holding, that's a girl yet. Till today, he can't open a Sichos Haran. Because of that one comment 20 years ago. Now, it's immature of this person. He needs to grow up and move on from it. That's also true. Sometimes they don't even realize that that's happening. Because b'nei adam, yesh lahem koach, lamno, lahasas, adam, l'rachakom, begodas abore, yosem b'nei Yetzer Hara.
That's why maybe it's first in tone. So maybe that's why it's the first thing too.
The Kad of Leitzim, the group of Leitzim, they're the worst. Sichos Haran talks about that. They're the absolute worst. That's why Leitzanis, making short comments and jokes, you have to be very careful. Right? Some people like to say them because then the life of the party. You hear a whole Musar Shmuz, you hear something that inspires you. One person says a joke at the end, the whole thing is done, finished. The whole mood is serious, you were thinking about it, makes one sly comment, sly remark, garnished. Mamish. So the Yetzer Hara comes at us, but the people come at us with much, much, much more. Yeah? Okay, let's go. Let's start with Pei Aleph now. Bnei Adam heimonim gedolim od. There you go. People influence, they prevent a lot. Right? Like we were just talking about. They can prevent you from doing mitzvahs or encourage you to do averos or stay away from the tzaddikim. Oh, that tzaddik. Oh, that one. I heard this about him. I heard about this. Yeah. That's you go to that tzaddik. Okay. By me, he's not a tzaddik. But if you want to go, you can go. So now you're not going anymore. Again, unless you're a confident person, you don't care about people. You're always Kenomer. But if you're not, and most people are not, until they work on themselves, which they should, and they shouldn't care about other people there, they say, but then they can prevent you. Vida. This is amazing. Okay? Ready for this? Amazing. And I don't know why I have to give this disclaimer now, but Stam will give this disclaimer. It's always true when you're learning Torah and a sefer from the tzaddik. Whenever you learn something for the first time, you're learning from a Gemara, you're learning from a Medrash, you're learning from a tzaddikim. If you're learning the sefer, you hold it. Right? If you didn't hold it, you wouldn't learn. But if you're learning it, you hold it the tzaddik. Before you ask any questions on anything, again, that's not going to be so crazy what he's going to say, but you already go in saying whatever he says is emes. It's emes. Afterwards, if you have a question, what does he mean? I don't understand this point, then we could speak about that. But even if you don't come to an understanding, it's still true what he said, I just don't understand it. If you go in without that emunah, and you start asking questions like, what is he talking about here? Like, this doesn't make any sense. You're actually going to, in a deep way, without you realizing it, you're going to knock the whole thing out. You're not going to believe it. And then you're going to miss what the topic is saying. So again, he's not saying anything crazy here. I don't know why I just get a disclaimer now, but it's something always important, especially when you learn about Nachman, when he says some courageous and bold things. So what he's about to say is 100% true, and it's very important you believe it, because it's a very... He said so. But it could help your life. Vida. You should know. In Haya Adam Levado, if a person would be by himself, and there'd be no other people around him to prevent him, to influence him. Afal P, even though Shagam Oz, Hayubam al Ha'adam, Kol Bilbulam, Kol Machshavas, Atardos, Kol Manias. If a person lives in the mountains by himself, by the way, like the Rambam says that if you live in a city of bad people, it's better to live in the mountains by yourself. So wasn't this? I'll show it to you afterwards. I think it's Sichos Haran. Rabbi Nachman says, if you are living by yourself in some field, some mountain, and nobody's there to prevent you from anything, even though you're not potter from crazy thoughts, you're still going to have bilbulim, you're going to still have thoughts that bother you, you're going to still have yetzer haras, you might even have hirhurim, right? You're not potter from that because you're not with people, you're still with your yetzer hara, with yourself. Aval piking, even though you're going to have all that stuff. Bevadai, certainly, 100%. You will incline yourself to the true path of life. Kisov kol hasov, because at the end of the day, in the deepest part of who you are, which is your neshama, will always break through and will note that Talmud Derech Emes, it's always, your inner compass is always inclined and pointed towards the Derech Emes, the true path. Because that's really, really, really who you are. You can't change that. You have a neshama, I have a neshama. And therefore it's always there, always guiding you. It could be that you don't hear it, because there's yetzer haras, there's taivas, there's people. But if you take the people away, the inner compass of emes, that neshama, will break through and guide you to the derech emes, the derech chaim. Even if in that mountain range where you're by yourself, you do averis. Afal pikein, even so, you will certainly regret what you did. If there are no other people there, even if you did a sin, you will come to regret. And at the end of the day, what will be left with you is emes. But you have to learn the other way. If you are with other people, right, then you might never come to the derech emes. You might never come to the derech chaim if there are other people surrounding you. Either they're going to influence you, or you won't admit, or even if you've done something wrong, you're not going to think about it because you're involved in the conversations with other people, you're involved socially. But Nachman is saying something so simple. He's saying that if we would distance ourselves from people, now, good people is a different story. Good people is good people. They help us. But if we would but the problem is, how many good people do you really know? If we would distance ourselves from people and be alone more, guaranteed you would become a better person. She says. Right? And I'm going to add to that, because I have to take a hit when I can take a hit. You could separate yourself from people, but if you still listen to the news, if you're still involved in social media, then you're with the people. Right? Nowadays, being with the people is not with actual physical humans. It doesn't have to be. It's with people's opinions. Right? But he's saying, if a person would cut ties as much as he can, Mesilas Yesharim speaks of this also. Mesilas Yesharim in the higher levels. He says, if you want to get to the higher madrigas and you want to stay away from being pulled down, he says you have to limit your connection with people. So he says, I'll show it to you inside. At least 2 times, if not 3 times. But that means can disconnect from all that other stuff also. So if a person wants to learn that better, he wants. He wants to stop doing this aver, that aver. He wants to stop thinking this way. He wants to be more positive in life. He wants to be optimistic. He wants anything good in life. It could be that the reason why you have not yet received, got to that madrega, is because you're always surrounded by other people. And it could be that those people are preventing you, even though they don't even realize that. Even though you don't realize that. Because you don't know how you act, how you think, how you perceive when other people are around. Again, it's not always how people say to you. It could be what you think they think about you. So if a person wants to bump up his Yiddishkeit, he wants to be more wholesome, clean, better Eved Hashem, we have to start distancing ourselves from people. Not in a bad way. It'd be obviously be a chacham, don't be a crazy person. But we're very often connected to people that we shouldn't be. And it's not always the good reasons. Either because we need to feel confident, we just need the social aspect, or we're doing it because we kiss up, because they're the cool guys, or they have the money, or whatever it is. And just because in high school there were cliques, there's cliques also when you get out of high school too. But even wanting to be in that group could prevent a person from being his true self. But if you leave him alone, Rabbi Nachman says, Bevada is guaranteeing, if you leave him alone, it doesn't matter that you have a Yetzer Hara within you. Right? He says, you'll still have Babulim, you'll still have inner Menias, you'll still be maybe sin. So you have a Yetzer Hara there. But Sof Kosof, you'll come to the Derech Emes. So not only can Bnei Adam influence you more than the Yetzer Hara to do bad or not to do good, the Bnei Adam can keep you from your true self even more than the Yetzer Hara can. But Ahmed says, he says, you can have a Yetzer Hara, but yet if you're by yourself, you will overcome it. Nothing complicated, just being by yourself alone. It's crazy, but it's true. It's mamish true. There's so much gook in our brains from other people's comments, opinions, or what we think about other people's opinions. There's meditation retreats that people go on, that the whole retreat is just kind of being by yourself. I mean, there are groups, sometimes it's different levels. You're just not talking for like 6 to 8 hours a day, like every day. Buddhists do this. You're just not talking to people, just being in your own head. Now, for the first 20 minutes, half hour, 2 hours, it's like really weird. Like, what are we doing over here? And you're thinking a lot about other stuff. But after you break a certain amount of time, when you finally surrender to the quiet, what happens when you run out of things to worry about, Like, you're sitting there by yourself for 6 hours, 5 hours. It's okay, so this is crazy, what am I doing here? You go through that stage, then you start, okay, fine, so I'm not going to think about I'm crazy, I'll think about, I don't know, my work, my da-da-da. Eventually, all that stuff is done. The reason why he keeps pumping around is because you go from this guy to back home, to running to shul, you're always doing stuff so the mind can keep swirling around as you physically move around. But if you're sitting in one place, nowhere to go, nobody else to connect with, it's only so long you can loop around the same thoughts until just, okay, like Ad Khan. What happens when it all goes blank? What happens? What do you think about? There's no Divrei Torah to think about, What are you thinking about? The true essence of a person starts to bubble up. A self that most people in the world have never met. A self within himself. Most people have never met themselves. From the time we're little kids, we're taught by our parents, by our band, then we're taught by our friends, influenced by our friends, and then maybe the professors, and then you go to work, and then the family. When does a person ever have time for just be himself? Seldom. The second person, even nowadays, he goes to be by himself, then he turns on the phone. He's like, what's going on in the world? Let me hear. Try it. Who does that? Who sits by themselves and just thinks? Very few people. Very infrequently. True? Rarely. But so then, are you ever you? Like I tell guys, I used to tell like Bachar learning. I say, how do you know? I said, are you learning Lishma or Lo Lishma? So they'll say, let's say they're honest, let's say. They say, I'm Lishma. I'm trying to be Lishma. They're not like saying Vaday. I'm trying. I said, how do you? I said, where do you learn it? Where do you do it? So he says, first Seder, second Seder, third Seder, the base medrash. I say to him, how do you know that you're learning for the sake of Hashem, you're not learning for the sake of other people knowing that you're learning? How do you know? Can you prove it to me? Like, what do you mean? I'm not learning because other people see me. I'm learning because it's Hashem's Torah. What are you talking about? I say, but how do you know if you're always with other people? Can you prove to me that you're not? The answer is no. How could a guy prove if he's consistently learning by himself somewhere else? If you cannot be with people and consistently learn by yourself, day that no one knows, so you've proved that you are not learning because of other people. And maybe you're learning because of Kadosh Baruch Hu wants. It could be you're learning for some other reasons, but at least you've proven You're not just learning because of other people know you're in the base medrash. But if you're always with them, you cannot prove to me. It's impossible. You can tell me all you want, but maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't know your deepest motivation. Right? We don't know our deepest motivations. You only start to know when you go quiet for a long time. That doesn't mean you have to take 6 hours, but it means a person has to have a zman every day called quiet time. Kids need quiet time, and adults need quiet time. We're no different. Kids need quiet time because they're acting out, they're biting people, and they're punching, they're kicking, they're screaming, they're being disrespectful. And parents need quiet time because they're getting overwhelmed, they're getting stressed, they're getting anxious, they're feeling guilty. Right? So we all need quiet time because that's all external stuff. And when you live in the external world, all the comments, the opinions of other people matter because they live in the external world and their comments are in the external world and you live in the external world. But if a person can become a deeper person that's not dragged around by everything that happens in the world, every time the stock market goes up, everything goes down, the gas prices, just in LA. You know how high the gas prices are there? New Yorkers would strangle themselves. It's about $5.50 a gallon, you know? Not everybody over there. A lot of homeless. But you understand. If you live in the external world, then everything in the external world gets you much more than that Yetzer Hara. But if you live in the internal world, yeah, there'll still be a Yetzer Hara. But in the deepest self of who you are, you're stronger than the Yetzer Hara. Because you're really a neshama. Right? You guys learning Tanya. The Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov is only a level more external or lower. It's less powerful than the neshama itself, right? You learn that. The way the person Yetzira. Neshama is in the world of Bria. Chaya is Atzilus. Yechida is Ak. Right? You learn that. If you learn this farm, you understand the depth of a person, all the olamas. So if we want to be people who are not influenced by others, first of all, you have to obviously stay away from them. Because what does that do? First of all, Pashup Shad, you're just not influenced by them. But the deeper understanding is that it allows you to finally get to your deeper self, shed the external self, and just getting thrown around. You allow to say, wow, I'm a deeper person. I actually have an opinion. I don't like that person. Why am I hanging out with him? I don't like that thing. Why am I always doing that thing that I don't like to do? You start to think, oh my gosh, am I only doing this because of that person? So he knows that I'm doing this? And we realize we're Pasha crazy people doing all these things, thinking certain things, feeling certain ways because of other people. But when you get deep into yourself, again, just Pasha from being quiet, again and again, day in and day out, you become a deeper, stronger person. And then you have the ability, as Kanamer, to fight against other people because they're living in a world of externality. So their external comments can't touch you when you're so deep. That's great. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Because words will never hurt me because I'm not at the same madreg as you. You can say anything you want, but I don't hold of that. I don't know what you're talking about. That's narishka. It's gibberish. Because I'm a deeper person. I know myself. Yeah, easier said than done. But it's the beginning. It's the beginning of it. Still what to talk about, Mr. Shem, but try. It's not a joke. Just stay away from people. Stay away from comments and opinions and narishkeit. And at the same time, quiet. Quiet. Still. Allow the deeper self, the elokus within you to bubble up and influence you.